Good afternoon, folks. Hello, and thanks for joining us this afternoon at CCUF International. We have a special guest today, Gurjot Sandhu from TD Bank Group. She is going to speak on banking in Canada as an international student. She is responsible for TD Bank for everyday advice and folks who are new to Canada. So I think this will be quite valuable for anybody interested in Canada, trying to make the money thing work. So Gurjot, thanks so much again for sharing your expertise here. I'll let you take over and we'll handle some questions at the end of the session.
Sounds good. Thank you, Logan. So I appreciate the introduction. You kind of gave away the whole spiel about like what I do, but specifically within TD, I'm a segment manager. And my role is really to support new Canadians on their journey to Canada. So it's pretty exciting. I'm excited to be here today. Before I get into the details of the session, realizing that everybody here is international, you might be wondering what exactly TD is. So I will just give you a little bit of background on that first. So TD Bank Financial Group is one of the 10 major banks in North America and one of the big 5 in Canada. Range of financial products and services to more than 26 million customers worldwide. TD actually ranks among the leading financial services firms with more than 15 million active online users. So like with mobile banking customers, we know that mobile banking is important for students especially. TD was named one of the top apps. This is a bank of choice for many new Canadians, and I'm actually here to talk to you about what you need to bank in Canada. So I'm sure there's a lot in your mind, and you guys are here today, thinking about planning for your future, making this major life decision, such as moving to a new country, selecting a program of study, and a specific school to pursue your dreams. So the object of today's session is to get you thinking about how you can prepare from a banking perspective, arriving in Canada, and once you land here. We hope this helps relieve some of the strain and check some things off of your to-do list. The first slide I have here is getting set up before arriving in Canada. And there's a number of ways you can really get organized from a banking and financial perspective. And one of the biggest ways as a student looking to study in Canada is something you can do before you come to Canada. And if you'd like to meet Canada's study permit requirements under the Student Direct Stream program, our TD International StudentGIC program can help you. Depending on where you live, you may be able to get your study permit faster through the Government of Canada's Student Direct Stream. And in the webinar description, I think Logan is going to put it into the chat. There's a TD page with helpful resources for you and links directly back to the Government of Canada page as well, where you can see the specifics around both the government's Student Direct Stream program and how TD supports that. A very quick overview of some of the main conditions for TD's program are that you must meet the eligibility requirements of the Government of Canada's Student Direct Stream program. You must be an individual who is planning on studying in a post-secondary institution in Canada. You must be a minimum of 18 time of application and not be opening an account on behalf of a third party. You must also be a legal resident living in one of the following countries: China, India, Morocco, Pakistan, the Philippines, Senegal, or Vietnam. So how does the TD International Student GIC program work exactly? It's actually very simple. So we have a fully digital solution. You can do this all from home. There's no application fee when you apply for the program, and you can do it all before coming to Canada. You would have to visit a branch eventually. So once you land here, in order to access the funds, you'd have to visit a branch. But the great thing about TD is that we have over 1,000 branches and communities all across Canada, and we have over 60 languages available within those branches. So you'll be sure to find a location that's nearby once you get here. The TD International Student GIC program opens you both a TD Student GIC checking account in Canadian funds and a TD International Student GIC in Canadian funds. So I'll just give you a bit of detail about what the student checking account actually is. It is in Canadian dollars, which would be useful for you as you're studying in Canada, and it's designed with students in mind. You pay no monthly fee as long as you're 23 years old or show proof of enrollment in a full-time secondary institution, which will be easy since that is the objective of you coming to Canada to study. The 25 transactions are included that you won't pay anything for, and so this allows you to really focus on school. Once you land here and start using the Canadian dollar checking account, you can use it for regular daily transactions. And one of the ways you can access it is through a debit card, which
it will let you access the money at
automated teller machines, so banking machines. You can make purchases in store. You can, shop online around the world or transfer money around the world. So it's definitely something that you want to make sure if you're planning on studying in Canada. And the International Student GIC, what that gives you is just a no-fee way to invest and also meet the requirements and conditions of the Student Direct Stream program. So once you land here, the principal amount will be redeemed and you would get monthly payment. You've cashed out the So the next step, really something that you can do once you arrive in Canada, is you need to have your paperwork ready. And so what does that look like so that you feel confident when you're visiting a bank and a branch? So you'll need to, if you use the Student Direct Stream program or the TD International Student GIC program for the SDS, you may have already opened a checking account, but you will still need to visit a branch once you land. And as I mentioned, we have over 1,000 branches, 60 languages to serve you. The paperwork you need to bring with you is your immigration forms and a valid passport, which can be international. And since you're coming as a student, you would need to have valid student ID or something to confirm your enrollment. And below, I just wanted to share that there's a few ways that you can set yourself up in advance. You can book an appointment so that you don't have to wait when you visit a branch. You can use our branch locator to see which branch is closest to you. And if you have any questions about anything, you can call our Easy Line service, which is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. So once you arrive in Canada and visit a TD branch and have your ID with you, you'll want to ensure that you have the right accounts set up to meet your needs. You may have already opened the checking account, as we talked about through the TD International GIC program. And in that case, you just need to show your ID to make sure that you have full access to the account. And it's used for day-to-day transactions. But the other two services that you would want to consider as a student in Canada would be a savings account. So although it can seem, very difficult to even think about saving with all the expenses that students have, it's always a good idea to have a separate account set aside that you're not planning to spend right away. So your checking account would be used for your day-to-day transactions, to pay bills, transfer money to your roommate for rent. But the money that you keep in your savings account would allow you to save and make goals for the future. And another advantage of the savings account is that you can earn interest on it. The other service that you'd want to consider is a TD, with TD is a credit card. And a credit card is what lets you borrow funds from an approved amount and make purchases rather than paying for them right away. So we're not saying that you want to build up debt because you can pay off the full balance every month before the payment due date. But the major benefit is that obtaining a credit card is the easiest way to build your credit rating in Canada. So credit rating is what's key. As you think about your future, and which is a future in Canada, starting to build your credit now as a student will help you build your credit rating and allow you to borrow money in the future for major purchases such as a car or a home. So without a credit rating that's long-standing, it could be difficult to obtain loans for larger purchases such as ones I mentioned for like a car or a home. And another perk with TD is that we have a variety of cards available to meet your needs. No fees, low variable rates, and rewards like travel. And I know travel rewards can come in very handy as you're thinking about visiting home. And the image I have here on the side is from our New to Canada booklet. It's available on our public page, and it's also something our advisors review with our newcomers to Canada, so you have an understanding about the basics of banking in Canada. I'm sure I've said a lot, so check out the booklet on our page. So as I mentioned, our page, I understand what I covered is a lot, and really TD's objective is to make it easy for you to navigate your arrival in Canada. So I just kind of wanted to spend some time here to show you what our public site looks like that you can access. Again, Logan was kind enough to share the link, I believe, but it's also on the webinar details. I wanted to call out that our public page is available in 14 languages. Some of those languages include French, Chinese, Spanish, Hindi, Punjabi, and more. And I'll just highlight some of the stuff here. So I mentioned the TD to New to Canada booklet, which is just in the lower left-hand highlighted in orange there. So if you open that up, prior to coming to Canada, it will just help you with some of the terms you might hear being thrown around. It's a great guide for banking basics. It goes over common banking solutions, how to set up self-serve banking, such as on our mobile app or online, and ways you might want to look into to transfer money locally and as well as internationally. We also have the guide to Canadian banking basics, which is in the image on the right-hand side. So that one terms, and then depending on where you are in your journey, we have support for you wherever you are, right? So you can see the arrow is pointing at plan your move to Canada, but we also have a tab for when you've just arrived, and then some more information for as you're settling in. And then at the bottom, we just highlighted, as you're preparing for your move, there's some really great tips on just recommendations from the Government of Canada, the things you might want to look into. And then on this page, I just want to highlight, so we have a page directly set up for our new Canadians and newcomers, and which includes international students, but we also have a student advice hub. And we talked about the different needs you have as an international student, but there's a lot of similarities you'd have with your student peers in Canada, and that's what this page is focused on.
It covers important topics like how to avoid bank fees, building good credit.
The student line of credit explained. I saw some questions
about that. So here, but I just want to show that there's a lot of information, and so please check out the page. So with that, I will stop talking.
This concludes my overview of what you need to bank in Canada. And I hope you can see from my overview that TD is really here to support you in your journey as you're thinking about moving and studying in Canada. We want you to feel confident and prepared for your move here. And my last tip, it's actually not banking related, it's weather related. For those of you who don't live in Toronto, I want to share that we actually got 30 centimeters or over 30 centimeters of snow this week. So if you're thinking about studying in Canada, anywhere in Canada, you got to be prepared for the weather. So be prepared to make a large investment on a winter coat once you land here. Thank you guys very much. And please let me know what questions you have.
Beauty. Thank you very much, Gurjot. And I'll add to that, good boots. Nice set of winter boots is key. Okay, so we do have some questions. We'll take them just in more or less order. First one is a sort of two-parter. How are student loans given? I think this person might mean federal or provincial student loans. And then the sort of second part of the question is, does TD offer student loans to international students?
I will direct you to the Government of Canada page for any as international students through the Government of Canada. At this time, TD does not offer
international students. So the type of credit that we're able to offer students
is really starting at the credit card level.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And for everyone listening, I've just added another link to the chat there to help as well. Okay. So on the subject of credit cards, this one's a bit of a tech question, but can payments be automated from a savings account? Can a student set up automatic payments for a credit card so they don't fall behind?
100%. That is a great tip to share with everyone on this call. If you do not want to fall behind on payments, but you want to build your credit rating, you can make sure you make your minimum, at the very least, make your minimum credit payment and set it up to automatically come out of your account each month. That's something that TD offers.
Yes, and is good advice. I totally agree. Okay, so next question is about student lines of credit. How do they operate, and what do you need to potentially qualify to receive one?
So I can, I'm not sure this would, from a TD perspective, TD doesn't offer student lines of credits for international students.
Sure.
I can speak about how line of credits work in general, like if you are a Canadian resident, although I'm not sure. Logan, do you think that's the right way to spend our time for this fair, being for international students? Or maybe I can direct you to the Student Hub on our TD page, which talks about the line of credit if you are a Canadian resident and not an international student.
Yeah, sounds good. I think most of our audience today is going to be international, so the Student Hub for TD I've just put in the chat as well. So that's a good place to get some answers that we can't provide today. So thank you for that. Okay, so the next one. Does TD offer scholarships, prizes, grants, bursaries, that sort of free money type of thing?
TD does
offer grants, but specifically for, if the question is if they're offered specifically for international students,
no, but once you're enrolled in school and depending on, like, there's grants for, how you may be giving back to the community, and along those lines, there are grants, but not like if you're looking for a grant prior to coming to Canada, there is nothing that's offered. But once you're a student, there are things that you can definitely look into.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. This one is, I guess, about the sort of student credit card. Is there any sort of discount on the interest rate maybe for international students for some of these products?
So for international students, we do offer $0 banking. So there's no no fee for the checking account. In terms of credit card offers specifically for international students, there's not any credit card offers specifically for international students, but we have different types of cards, right? So we have, depending on what your needs are as an individual, you might be looking for, if you're looking to build your credit and you just want to pay,
but you're looking for travel perks, there's a travel card for you.
If you might be carrying somewhat of a balance, but you're able to meet your minimum balance every month, we do have a low interest credit card that you could definitely enroll for that card. So lower than
great.
I think typically it's a variable rate. So that's the only thing I want to add. It's a lot lower than the typical credit card interest rate.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's great news for any student, really. So this kind of tacks to, looks like Kia's question here. Any specific cards you would recommend to undergrad students? Would you sort of say this variable rate card is maybe the best bet for somebody who's just getting their feet wet?
Honestly, there's not one card. There's not a one size fits all. The great thing for us having a line of credit cards, like I mentioned, if you know you're going to pay your balance off right away, but you're looking for those perks, a travel card might be the right one for you, right? You miss your family, you want to build some credit, use the cards, the points that you've built up to get a discount on a ticket when you're flying home. But if you know that the cost of your textbooks and other expenses are just not going to be paid off monthly, and you want to make sure you have the lowest interest rate, low interest rate credit card from our TD line might be the best.
Right. So it is going to be ultimately up to the individual, right, to make the right choice.
Yeah. I'll add in my last spiel is that if you do visit a branch or just check it out online, we do have our credit card advisor tool. So an advisor can go through it with you, or you can self-serve and see and ask you some questions, and you can see which one is actually the best way to go for yourself.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So you can compare them directly. That's great. Exactly. Okay, so another question, sort of specific techie, but Can a student have an account at more than one bank at a time?
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm assuming maybe you're talking about a bank in your home country and a bank in Canada, or even you can have multiple
in Canada as well.
but the recommendation is if you are, you don't need to you don't need to close the account that you have back home, but you definitely want a Canadian dollar account that's easily accessible while you're here.
Yeah, that makes sense. The question doesn't specify exactly, so we'll leave it broad. Okay. You kind of touched on. Oh, actually, here's a good follow-up. If we already have a foreign individual account, can we use it in Canada too?
So just the way that's described, a foreign individual account, I'm thinking, is that maybe an account that you have in home country that's maybe in Canadian funds? You could try to use it, but I would say the convenience of having a Canadian dollar bank account with a Canadian bank is that it's a lot more accessible, right? So you lose your card, you walk into the nearest branch, right? You have to show your ID. You can't fly back home. You can use your Canadian bank to do that. So, and I'm assuming if the account you're referring to is back in your home country, there might be some additional fees. Whereas if you're with a Canadian bank and with a Canadian dollar account, you would be able to.
Beauty. Okay, thanks. Yeah, again, doesn't exactly specify, but related maybe. Can students open an account with TD or another Canadian bank before they're in Canada?
100%. So that would be that International Student GIC program.
Yes, but part of that, what it does is you open up a checking account.
So the student checking account, no fee banking, you're able to do a one-time transfer in to fund the GIC required for the SDS program. And it's once you land here that you have access to the funds. So you can do the one-time transfer in, so you don't have to carry a wad of cash while you're traveling, but you have access to it once you come into a branch and show your ID.
Perfect. Thanks very much. I want to jump back to something we talked about earlier, and that's the required documents to study in Canada. This student has just asked, what are the required documents?
So the required documents for applying before arriving to Canada. So I'm looking at the question, right?
Yeah, sorry.
So it's twofold. So if you're talking about what are the requirements to be to get your study permit, and if it's the study permit through the SDS program, I'll refer you back to the first link that Logan might have shared just from it's on our page, and it's link.
Tell you what the requirements to apply for the program, right? What are the eligibility requirements, eligible countries? It's 14 countries overall for the SDS program. TD services 7 of them, which is more than any of the other big 5 banks.
They will tell you what the required IDs are. For TD specifically, what you would need is your immigration documents. So it's like your temporary resident form, I believe is what you get as an international student, an international passport, and then your letter of enrollment. If you're the account before you arrive, it's your letter of enrollment or letter of acceptance, sorry. And then once you come here, it's your letter of enrollment to show that you've actually accepted and are attending the school.
Beauty. Thank you for clearing that up for anybody who was a little bit confused. We've got another question around credit cards or debit cards. Could a potential international student get away without a credit card? Like, is a debit card enough, or is a credit card also sort of a must?
I wouldn't say it's a must, but you like what are you, as you're studying in Canada, are you looking to stay here in the long term? Are you looking to eventually get your permanent residency and become, a long-term resident of Canada and build your future here? And if the answer is yes, you want to start building your credit history early. It will help you along the way as you're looking for loans in the future, looking to buy a home in the future. If you don't have any credit history and you didn't start building that early on, it'll be difficult to get approved for credit in the future for larger asks, like larger asks of money, such as a mortgage required to finance a home. Perfect.
Thank you for that. Yeah, the building the credit score is a sort of itself a long-term thing, right? It's not an overnight task. Okay, we've got a couple of questions around a similar topic, and that's like repayment, right? Some folks are worried about trying to repay a loan or maybe some credit card debt while they're studying versus trying to wait until they're done and pay it off after school is complete. Do you have a perspective on this? Does it depend on the student? What's your advice in terms of like repaying loans or debt?
So I'll start with the credit card. So as long as you make your minimum payment every month, you are building good credit. But do you actually want to leave a balance on a credit card that typically has a higher interest rate than something like a loan, a line of credit, or a student line of credit? I would say the answer is no. That's not where you want to build your debt. So I would not recommend that to anyone.
Last resort, that is when you'd want to look into a low interest rate credit card for yourself if you know you're going to carry a balance.
In terms of the line of credit for a student, it's not offered for international students through TD, but I can speak about it in general. We just know student line of credits are not paid off right away, right? That's the objective of getting a student line of credit, is that you're only able to make small lump sum payments for a certain period of time, right? So that's the whole objective of it, is that you don't pay it off right away. So there's no minimum payments on any of your credit.
You're building good credit.
Where
You want to keep a balance on the student line of credit versus a credit card because it offers you a lower interest rate.
Beauty. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're getting close on time. We've got maybe 15 minutes left if anyone has any sort of last minute questions. We've got one here that maybe you can speak to, Gajat, I'm not totally sure. The question is, are there debit card options for international students? And if so, do you have any recommendations?
Yep. So the debit card that you get is linked to the type of checking account, or you might that you get with the bank, right? So the debit card that we offer can be, if the debit card is the only card that you get and it's linked to your Canadian dollar checking account, my recommendation to you as a student is to get a student checking account because it's free and it offers you no monthly fees and 25 transactions a month. And the debit card that TD has can also be used when you're making online purchases. Sometimes your only option is to input
But our debit cards operate where you can use that same number
to access the money from your checking account. So you don't necessarily need a credit card if you don't want one. Logan, do you think that was clear? My explanation there? You don't get a choice between debit cards. TD only offers one debit card, but it's the type of checking account that you link it to that you'd want to that you have a choice on. And my recommendation is a student checking account.
Yeah, I think that is helpful, right? The card just gets you access to the account, right? It's the account that really is relevant. And focusing on a student one makes sense to me with my lack of expertise. Great. So we've got another question here. Maybe, I'm not sure I totally understand, but building credit score for a couple of years, like, is having a good credit score already imperative to securing a future loan, like a student loan, line of credit, or whatever? Is it important or advised, I guess, to have strong credit score prior to that?
If the international credit scores, like if you've been building it for 2 years, I'm assuming it's an internet, like in your country, like at home, that would not translate over to Canada. And so you would basically be starting fresh as a new Canadian.
That's interesting. So a given person could build up a credit score with their local bank, whatever country. That's not going to affect their credit score here in Canada.
No, I mean, one thing I can say without getting too off topic, right? Because I know the focus is international students. If you come here not as an international student, as a permanent resident, and you're looking to make your first like home purchase, there are opportunities to look into like your credit back
the case for international students.
Right. Okay. I appreciate that distinction. Thanks. I know we do have some folks on the line who might be considering being students, but aren't necessarily have pulled the trigger yet. Okay. And I guess the follow-up to that question, she was specifying building credit in Canada in an effort to then get a Canadian loan. Does that change your answer at all?
So if you're already in Canada,
Because if you've been building credit for 2 years, it would all depend on what your credit rating is now, right? And that credit rating would be looked at
looking to apply for a loan.
Right. Okay. That makes perfect sense to me. So thanks, Nana, for qualifying your question there. We do have a few more minutes for questions. If anyone has anything else on your mind, now's the time to fire them in. Otherwise, the presentation will be recorded, has been recorded, and will be available shortly once it's processed, so 15 minutes or so. And you can cycle back through. Gurjot, is there any sort of parting words, final advice you want to leave our crowd with today?
Just want to thank you guys for your time and your engagement. I'm appreciate all of the questions that have come in, and I hope some of my answers at least were helpful to you guys. But if not, I encourage you definitely check out our New to Canada public site page, because we have lots of support for you, not just about TD specific products, just about
your journey, right? Getting started, where's the right
place to go once you land here, but also specific questions that you'd have as an international student. So check out the page. It's definitely helpful. Got some great information on there. Thanks,
Okay.
Logan, and thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, Gurjot, for again sharing your expertise and taking your time and answering so many questions today. Really appreciate it, and everybody for tuning in as well. Hope you enjoyed. Stick around for the last bit of the fair, and thanks again, Gurjot. Have a great afternoon.
Bye, everyone. Good luck.